On the 20th of March 2024, Mark Stein reported that the Philadelphia 76ers, quote, loom as eager, unquote, to sign Paul George in free agency if he becomes a free agent. The news comes just 2 days after George told Tomer Azali from Clutch Points that the LA Clippers didn't have an identity amid a 4-5 losing skid. The Clippers lost to the short-handed 76ers today, meaning that they've lost 5 of their past 8 games, with 2 of those 3 wins coming against the lowly Portland Trail Blazers. This is the first we've heard of Paul George's free agency since 11th of February this year, when he told Tomer Azali that the, quote, goal is to sign an extension with the Clippers. That quote sounds good, but the actual video was rather cold as PJ responded to 2 of Tomer's questions in the locker room with "that's the goal." Here's the audio.
And your representatives are still ongoing. Has anything changed? Like, is the goal for both sides still to kind of come to an agreement on an extension sometime soon?
That's the goal.
That's the goal. Is there any new update beyond just that?
That's the goal.
Paul George will be 34 years old by the end of this season, and this season is one of his worst in recent years. He's averaging 22.5 points with 3-point assists, while shooting 47% from the floor and 40% from behind the arc in just 34 minutes a night. Those point and assist numbers are the lowest since his first season with the Clippers, but it's also his first season playing alongside James Harden, so it's fair enough. Since joining LA in one of the biggest trades in NBA history, he's lined up his free agency at all times with fellow star Kawhi Leonard. This is the first time that the two stars haven't been completely lined up in a deal, as Kawhi signed a 3-year, $153 million extension in mid-January this year. The Clippers have a lot of pressure to be good, since their big Kawhi-Paul George offseason in 2019 has only resulted in one injury-riddled conference finals berth. For what it's worth, it was the deepest run in franchise history, but Western Conference semi-finals winners' banners don't fly forever. So what's he doing? Paul George has missed the chance to sign an extension. I'm assuming the Clippers were happy bending over and giving him any number that he wanted, likely his max, so why didn't he sign it? The quote about the Clippers extension being the goal doesn't really make sense. I'm sure it was on the table, especially because Lawrence Frank said that they've offered an extension to George during a post-Kawhi extension interview, and the Clippers are heading into their new stadium, lots of money in, Steve Ballmer, everything towards this Clippers team is win-win-win and pay whatever it costs. But I'm guessing Paul George is making the patient play. I think he's waiting to see what known erratic free agent James Harden is going to do first. The Clippers are title contenders with all 3 stars on the team, but there's no reason for PJ to sign on the dotted line until he knows that Harden and Kawhi are there. But the longer that he doesn't sign a deal, the longer the rest of the league can entice him away. So let's start with some of the options. The most obvious destination is the CAA Knickerbockers. PG is with CAA, he's represented by Aaron Mintz, I believe, and there's the obvious Leon Rose, Tom Thibodeau, Rick and Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, Isaiah Hartenstein, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby connection there. There's almost no way for them to sign him, unfortunately, and look, they've also got a free agent themselves in OG Anunoby, so maybe they can just let one CAA client go away. The Sixers are the only team who have said that they're interested in Paul George, and they can just sign him outright this free agency, which is excellent news for PG, and maybe where those rumours are coming from. If they're not real, and if Daryl Morey doesn't believe that he can actually sign Paul George away, it's at least a realistic destination, well, for every single free agent this year. But unfortunately for the Clippers, if he does go to the 76ers, they would get absolutely nothing in return because there is no reason for the 76ers to make it a sign-and trade. There is a world in which the Brooklyn Nets can open up enough cap space, but it involves moving on from one of their big salary players. And I'm talking about the good big salary players. So they might just be better off waiting until the better 2025 free agency class rolls around when Essendon Bombers fan Ben Simmons comes off the books. The LA Lakers have to be mentioned here because during his whole time with the Oklahoma City Thunder, he said that he wanted to be in LA, which is funny because he's there at the moment. The LA Lakers have to be mentioned here because he's always wanted to be in LA, funnily enough. But as with all LA destinations, it's great when he gets photoshopped into a jersey, but it's just a little bit too hard for them to open up space. And I don't really think that the Clippers are really falling over themselves to get their collection of role players on kind of bad contracts and Lakers 2030 picks. My favourite destination for Paul George would be the Memphis Grizzlies, but Desmond Bane's contract extension kicks in next off-season, so to even duck below the salary cap and have the opportunity to offer the Clippers a sign and trade, they need to find a home for Marcus Smart and Brandon Clark. So they're looking pretty locked into this roster, which for Memphis fans, I mean, that's a different discussion. It's a little bit grim. And then finally, there's all the crappy teams with heaps and heaps and heaps of cap space. There's definitely a viable way for Paul George to end up on the Detroit Pistons or Charlotte Hornets, San Antonio Spurs, or the Portland Trail Blazers. Does he want to be there? 34 years old, wants to win a title? Probably not. And fun fact, while doing some research for this podcast, the Portland Trail Blazers are paying Eric Bledsoe $1.3 million next season, which is good money if you can get it. These are all the options out there that I can see for Paul George, and it's just Philly, pretty much. It's just Philly. But usually, where there's smoke, there's fire. We've seen a few teams, we've seen a few players in recent history use these teams with big cap space, availability, using them as leverage, but it hasn't really worked out. But this just seems a little bit different. Paul George has consistently committed to the Clippers at every single opportunity. He's committed to being with Kawhi Leonard, and the only argument for him not committing is that he doesn't trust that James Harden is going to stay, and if he doesn't trust that James Harden is going to stay, a teammate who he's been in the locker room with every single day, if he doesn't trust that he's going to stay, is this something bigger going on? And if so, poor Kawhi Leonard. But to be fair, the last time that he was photoshopped into an LA jersey, which was 2018, after he'd been traded from the Pacers to the Thunder, there was a lot of noise. He was pretty much all but going to the LA Lakers. And then he posted a pic on Instagram of him and Russ Westbrook smoking cigars in a club. And it came out a little bit after that he actually said to Sam Presti weeks before, hey, I'm coming back, but I'm going to keep my name out there for as long as possible so it weakens the rest of the free agency crop, which is quite nice. So look, we thought that in 2018 and he just turned around and signed, so who knows, maybe it's a foregone conclusion, and maybe all he needs is a big fishing trip to clear his head, just like the good old days with Roy Hibbert. But let me know on social media. Follow the Deep 2 wherever you get your socials. Let me know whether you think Paul George is staying. What do you think the percentage chance is? I might even chuck up a little graphic on Instagram. I love doing that. But yeah, thanks for listening to the episode. This is another episode of the Quick Timeout with Sean Carroll. I'm Sean Carroll. This is Quick Timeout. And all links to reference quotes and articles in this episode can be found in the episode description. And make it a great day.
This episode of The Deep 2 is presented by Gelateria Bico, the official gelato of The Deep 2. Gelateria Bico, handmade gelato in the heart of Brunswick.
You want to talk WNBA? Maybe some WNBL? Australian Opals chat? Heck, even dabble in some EuroLeague? Find the W Basketball Show on the Deep 2 Podcast Network.